When you think of Warhammer 40k, your mind probably goes straight to the Space Marines, the super soldiers of the grimdark universe and the poster boys of 40k as a whole. Most of Warhammer's promotional material, stories, and other forms of media keep these guys in the front and center, so it was only a matter of time, and logical, that there would be video games made for them. Though a lot of these games were strategy games and had a broader focus on 40k as a whole, Relic Entertainment and THQ would have put a game into development that would finally let us fulfill our 40k fantasies of purging the Xenos and cleansing the heretic. Warhammer 40k's Space Marine. The reaction to the game's announcement and trailers was excitement, and a lot of people were introduced to 40k through this game, for better and for worse. When it finally came out, Space Marines was favorably reviewed, as many outlets quoted it as being a good breakdown of what Space Marines are, and that it was a brutal game that encapsulates the 40k universe very well. Space Marine has always had this reputation that it was the 40k game you use to introduce people to Warhammer. And we all know that so many people from the casual fan to the diehards are heavily excited for Space Marine 2, which has been a long-awaited sequel. Though, it also got me thinking, is Space Marine as good as we remember it? Or just like most people who got into 40k, were we bamboozled by the sight of awesome power armor? I am not gonna lie to you. If you are a diehard fan of Space Marine, you are probably gonna be really upset with me and my comments about this game, as well as what I have to say on the story and gameplay. I am going to be fair to the game, both with the good and the bad of it, and I hope that my problems with this game are addressed with its sequel. Though, a quick lore tidbit, as 40k is my jam, and thankfully, Saber Entertainment has addressed this lore problem. After a fucking decade of leaving us all confused, Captain Titus, the titular main character of this game, is said to be the second company captain. However, if you are a fan of Ultramarines, you know that Cato Sicarius is the current captain of the second company. So, for a while, and thanks to GW not answering, it led to a rather bad head-scratcher until Saber just came out and said that Titus was the previous captain in charge for a few centuries while the chapter was rebuilding from the First Tyrannic War. Only took you a fucking decade to say a couple of words, but whatever. Let's get into Warhammer 40k Space Marine. Our story takes us to the Forge world of Graia, which, fun fact, their Mechanicus forces were actually available to play in the tabletop game if you played Adeptus Mechanicus. We start off here due to an Orc invasion, which is set to overrun the planet. The Liberation Fleet is still a few days out, so a Space Marine strike force from the Ultramarines chapter nearby is requested to defend the planet's factories and War Titans until the Liberation Fleet arrives. We take on the role, as mentioned before, of Captain Titus, the current captain of the Second Company, along with Tyrannic War veteran Sidonis and Corporal Leandros, who's recently received Terminator honors, and Squad Salamis. The Orc invasion has clearly gotten out of hand, as Titus, Leandros, and Sidonis decide to jump from the gunship they are on to try and take the heat off their transport so that it can make it to the rendezvous. As a lore fan, I have a lot of problems with this scene. But looking at this from the point of view of a casual fan, this opening is fucking awesome. Seeing Titus hard drop from his gunship to the Orc capital ship, and the opening section of him tearing apart the crew and ship, it's a sick-ass opening. And then you play a tabletop game and try putting a captain up against save stakes, and well...
he's fucking dead.
Either way, Titus meets the de facto best character in the game, and love of my life, War Boss Grimskull, who we run off when we turn his big cannons against him, bringing the War Boss's ship crashing down and getting us our title card with Titus walking away like a badass. Fucker had a whole dump's worth of trash crash on him and he walks away unscathed. God damn! Now we are actually on the planet, and I am going to say this. Warhammer 40k Space Marine gets the look and feel of how the 40k universe should look. The team at Relic really nailed down the futuristic Gothic style of the Imperium, as well as really understanding the weight and scale of a place like a Forge World, which at this time in 40k's lore was barely expanded upon. Though this also leads to my major complaint about this: the game becomes extremely tiring to look at. Through the whole game, the only colors are washed out grays, browns, and desert colors. Now, to be fair, since the game is set on a factory world, I understand the color palette choice, but the consequences are that it makes the game really boring to look at, and every area feels the same. At some points, I notice myself just getting really tired and bored looking at everything when the only color on screen is Titus's armor, and even then, that's usually just covered in blood. But back to the plot. After getting ourselves a bolt gun, which is our standard rifle, and giving some orcs a lesson on why you shouldn't be on the opposite side of a 75 caliber explosive round machine gun, we reunite with Leandros and shortly after, Sidonis. The team agrees to try and find the local Imperial Guard commander to get a scope of how bad things are. Though, after this conversation, we are also given our first real melee weapon, the chainsword, which leads me to talk about the weapons. Again, credit to Relic. They nailed the weapon sound, feel, and weight. Each weapon is as close to the tabletop versions as they could get, and the bolter in this game is the best one from all of their 40k games. The chainsword as well sounds amazing as it roars with each swing, and when performing a glory kill, you can hear the chainsaw struggle against the target it's cutting down. Which is amazing attention to sound design. Though, now I gotta point out, it's very clear the ranged weapons were given more attention than the melee weapons. There are triple the amount of ranged weapons as there are melee weapons, and melee combat gets repetitive and basic because you only get a basic 3 to 5 swing combo depending on which close combat weapon you have, with the ability to put a stun attack somewhere in that basic combo, which just becomes mindless button mashing, and even worse, it also affects glory kills. A glory kill, for those who don't know, is when you execute an enemy with a bit more flair, whether that be ramming a chainsword down a knob's throat, or lifting an orc boy over your head and ripping into it. These are awesome the first few times you do them, then you realize the only way to heal is to glory kill, so you have to repeatedly replay the same execution every time you want to heal. Which, by the way, you don't get invincibility while performing these actions, so you are vulnerable during them from both ranged attackers and swarms that crowd around you. The amount of times I died because of this is not something I want to talk about. So not only is melee the most basic and boring thing in the game, it is required because it's the main thing to heal you, in a universe where it makes sense to have regenerative health because you're a space marine. Fuck, where were we? Oh yeah, turns out the situation on the planet is fucking awful, as the orcs have taken over an orbital defense cannon, and we can't get reinforcements to the planet's surface until the gun is taken back or destroyed. So Lieutenant Mira asks us to stage an assault on the gun so that her reinforcements can land, and she can give her current forces a break, which Titus agrees to, and here we also get another game mechanic, Fury. Fury is basically your rage mode, increasing your damage from melee and ranged weapons, while also giving you regenerating health. You generate Fury by both hitting enemies and killing them, so you are never without it for very long. But another benefit of it is that you can stun anyone instantly, and if they were a big guy like a Nob, you don't have to mash to kill them. You instantly get the glory kill, making Fury extremely useful, which we need as we push through orc-controlled lines to the gun battery, and when we get there, the group agrees that it would take too much time to clear it out. So violence must be applied to the gun itself. Slapping a melt-a-charge onto one of the gun's shells and following it up to make sure it does get loaded and fired, we blow up the gun battery and let guard reinforcements land on the planet. Ah, how every Space Marine mission goes. Violence applied to everything. With Mira getting her reinforcements, Titus and the team move to get back on track to defend the factories holding the Titans. You know, the real reason why we are here? Though, walking is going to take a long time, so how do we...
What in God's name is that?
Oh yeah, that'll do it. After getting to the factory grounds by doing an excellent parallel parking job, Titus and the team stumble upon a skull probe with the mark of the Inquisition. And this is where the real plot of Space Marine begins. An Inquisitor by the name of Drogon left a message with the skull probe, which is how we learn of an experimental device that the message says to keep out of enemy hands, or he will be unstoppable. Man, I love the fucking pronoun game. So, the mission changes from defending the Titans to finding the Inquisitor, which doesn't take us very long to do, as we find Drogon having an aneurysm over Alexa not listening to him.
Repeat authorization.
Me too, dude. Me too. So, as Drogon calms down, we of course ask him what the fuck the device that his recording was talking about is. Drogon reveals that the experimental device is powering the whole manufacturing facility, which just goes to show how powerful this fucking thing is. If it's powering a factory the size of the United States by itself. With that knowledge, Titus and the team agree to team up with Drogon to keep the power source out of the orcs' hands, as handing something that powerful over to them is a big no-no. Making our way down, we finally reunite with the sexiest orc alive, Grimskull. It seems like Grimskull is an orc that follows the thinking of cunning but brutal, as he instantly deduces we are after something more important than defending a Titan, and proceeds to have his forces put pressure on us so he can get the spalky thingy. So much so that while we are trying to extract the device, not only does he dump a bunch of knobs on us, but he even jeopardizes everything by destroying the servitor designed to encase the device, leading us to take the containment canister and encase it ourselves. But as we grab it, the power source starts overloading, causing the generator room to fall into the sewer system below it. After that little episode and surviving another junk pile falling on us, Titus gets the power source secured in its carrying case, and fighting our way through the sewer, we encounter the last orc unit type, the Heavy Knob. So while we clear our way out of the sewer, let's talk about the orcs of this game, because to be honest, these guys are perfect for this game. Over the course of the first two parts of the game, we are introduced to new orc units naturally, starting with the basic Gretchens, Boys, and Shooter Boys. Then we get to variations of boys with the harder-hitting Scar Boys, Shale Boys, and Rocket Boys, while we also get bigger, harder-hitting knobs, heavy knobs, and flashkits. These units together make up a pretty interesting force with how you're supposed to engage them. Some units are better to just rush in and melee attack to death, while others clearly need to be spaced out and kept at an arm's length. Honestly, the orcs were the best faction to choose for this game. And yeah, sure, the game's difficulty comes down to how many can we throw at you before you buckle, but these guys fundamentally are a great enemy to fight. So, how's the sewer fight going?
Captain Titus.
Well met, brothers. Any idea of our position?
Oh, what took you two fucks so long?
Boo! You suck!
Whatever. After reuniting with our squad and fighting our way to Drogon, the Inquisitor becomes disturbed that Titus is still alive, revealing that the device is made of pure warp energy. You know, the other realm stuff, the stuff that can either drive you crazy or kill you outright. Turns out, Titus either is immune or resistant to it, and Drogon reveals why the power source exists. The device wasn't meant to power a generator. It's an experimental weapon meant to attack and instantly kill any species that isn't human, which, for a Space Marine, probably sounds amazing. However, Drogon also reveals that the power source is unstable. Oh really, I hadn't noticed it, nearly killing me before, but yeah, sure, bud. Either way, Drogon explains that the experimental weapon, called the Psychic Scourge, could help stop the Orc invasion. And seeing that the invasion is only getting worse as more rocks come crashing down, we have little choice. Pushing through more Orc resistance, Titus eventually splits from the group as Drogon's wounds are slowing them down, and the Orcs are only chasing them because of the power source, which leads us through a jump pack section and gives us a Thunderhammer, the last melee weapon we get, and it's a heavy bastard, having a decent wind-up time with each swing, but it is clearly the strongest melee weapon, but at the cost of us only being able to use our bolter and plasma pistol while wielding it. After pushing through the Orc Horde, we reunite with Lieutenant Mira and her forces as they are organizing a counterattack with an air raid. Which, predictably, we do manage to reunite with Drogon and her team after the air raid, and Drogon is acting a bit desperate, showing something is off with the Inquisitor. However, it's probably just the stress and wounds getting to him, so Titus and the team quickly blow through local Orc forces, and they manage to get inside the facility. But Drogon reveals that the auto-turret defenses are still active and are set to fire upon anything or anyone that enters the facility. A bit of a weird defensive choice, but we are Space Marines. Those emplacements are easy to deal with. Once we turn off said turrets by getting to the control room, we are finally able to put the power source into the Psychic Scourge chamber, and finally we are able to fire it off, stopping this invasion once and for all.
Why didn't it work?
Damn that Drogon! Never trust the Inquisition!
Stand fast, Ultramarines. We can handle a few orcs.
Space Marine! Was that supposed to hurt?
Ah, right. Yeah, as it turns out, Drogon was not Drogon. He was a demon, serving this asshole named Nemeroth. Which leads me to talk about what the fuck is going on, and a game mechanic I haven't talked about for good reason, audio logs. Throughout the game, we can find audio logs in the shape of skull probes, and these logs tell short stories all throughout the Orc invasion. But we also find Drogon's personal logs. Listening to Drogon's logs reveals that the Inquisitor was genuine in his want to create a weapon that could protect humanity, but he threw caution to the wind, and he began to experiment with the warp. During one of these experiments, he would find an energy source that could do what he wanted, but he also found the very demon that would kill him and possess him. Which explains why Drogon was acting so weird for an Inquisitor. The demon realized that there was zero chance of it getting its puppet corpse past millions of screaming mushrooms. So it played nice with us and let us in on why the weapon was so important, so that way we would do what it wanted. Not to mention that this is why the turret defenses were acting the way they were. They were set to target the demon, and since we were traveling with it, the turrets fired on us. So, all in all, a good twist. However, as it stands now, the forces of chaos are here, and their leader, Lord Nemeroth, is taking a keen interest in Captain Titus and his ability to resist the warp's effects. But before Nemeroth can do anything to kill us, Grimskull interrupts and unintentionally saves us. I am gonna be perfectly honest with you. These last two parts are a slog to get through, thanks to the forces of chaos popping up. And the plot is just boringly straightforward from this point on. Get the power source off-world and stop the chaos invasion. Though I am going to say this now. This game's quality takes a sharp nosedive when dealing with the forces of chaos. Chaos has a total of 6 enemy variants, and they clearly did not have the same attention and thought put into them that the orcs did. All the forces of chaos are way too tough, as they eat up tons of your ammo and take ridiculous amount of punishment in melee to kill. As well, the damage output of most of their ranged units can completely drain your health in seconds, with heretics constantly spamming grenades while Chaos Marines chill in the back and light you up. This just leads to the game becoming a slow, annoying, and painful grind as we push through the rest of the game. I am not gonna lie to you, I just glazed over while playing these sections because of this annoying difficulty spike. Though we do finally put down the Orc invasion in a fun boss fight against Grimskull himself, this was the last bit I found fun, personally. After stopping the Orc invasion and using the power source to supercharge the Warlord Titan we came here to defend originally, we destroy the Chaos Gate that Nemeroth used to start bringing his fleet through, which is great! Now we can just do the annoying task of killing what's left of Nemeroth's forces and get the power source off-world, so we entrust our Death Flag magnet with the power source, which leads to a predictable outcome!
Sidonus!
He needs some milk!
At last!
After Sidonus is killed, Nemeroth steals the power source and it brings us to the endgame, which is a final sprint to the top of the orbital spire, fighting our way through hordes of Chaos Militia, Marines, and Demons, until we get to the final boss. The final fight is a 3-round slog of dealing with Demons, Psychers, and Chaos Marines, with the third wave being 2 extremely tough damage sponges, until Nemeroth ascends to Demonhood. Sick! This pain will be all worth it! A fight against a Demon Prince, if it's anything like the fight against Grimskull, will make this all worth it!
If it takes 1,000 years, I will rise again and take my vengeance upon
This game just likes hurting me. Yeah, the finale of this game is a fucking free-fall button masher, which is extremely disappointing. But we kill Nemeroth and destroy the warp device in the freefall, and we are saved by our Thunderhawk. Only to be arrested by the Inquisition.
Whoa, 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 whoa! 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 Whoa!
Leandros, being a pure example of the Imperium, accused us of heresy, and the Inquisitor Lord he summoned basically explains that Titus either surrenders to his authority, or the Ultramarines and those Titus fought alongside on Graia will be suspected as heretics. So, Titus agrees to surrender to the Inquisition, but before he leaves, he tells Leandros that he's a failure, and the game ends on a cliffhanger.
That's it?
The best way to describe Space Marine's story is that it's a Space Marine battle book in the best and worst ways possible. A story focusing on Space Marines, where it weirdly escalates the situation and tries to add in a chaotic twist that only serves to bog it down and make it a slog to get through. The characters are extremely bare bones, and though the audio logs manage to save and make Inquisitor Drogon more interesting, it doesn't really matter because Drogon is dead and we get a demon puppeting his corpse around instead. Titus isn't that interesting of a character either, as he is a MacGuffin and we don't really get much on how he feels about his sudden warp resistance. This was also around the time that GW was trying to fix the Ultramarines image by making Titus be exactly what the fans wanted him to be. A no-nonsense Ultramarine who actually earned his badass status. But tell me, aside from him being no-nonsense, what else does he do? He kills orcs good, doesn't go above certain octaves unless it's Death Flag over there getting stabbed, and he's really just a stand-in for a power fantasy. This also extends to the other characters as well. Sidonis is nothing but a grizzled war veteran who you know is going to get killed later. Leandros is the toxic part of the 40k community and an annoying codex thumper. Lieutenant Mira was barely here and you only get more out of her story if you find the audio logs, and Nemeroth was just a waste of an intimidating design. But again, this is why I say the game is a Space Marine battle book in the best and worst ways. Where there is a lack of character, the first half is an amazing spectacle of violence and gameplay, but it comes to a hard stop when the wall of chaos kicks you in the dick and the story becomes a crawl from section to section. Okay, but is there anything worth it about this game if you aren't already a fan of 40k and want a power fantasy? Well, yeah, actually, the online mode. Now, much to my shock when Space Marine 2 was revealed, Sega and Saber Interactive re-released Space Marine on Steam with an anniversary edition, giving it quality of life updates so that the game was optimized for modern hardware properly, with proper aspect ratios and such. Not only that, but all the DLC was put into one package. Though if you already owned the original version of the game on Steam, you were upgraded to the Anniversary Edition for free. This was an unexpected gift, but a much welcome one. The online mode gives you control over your own customizable Space Marine and Chaos Marine, with 3 different classes to play as: Tactical, Devastator, and Assault classes. Each class comes with different perks to give more depth to them. Like for the Tactical class, you can give your Bolter Kraken rounds to give it extra damage to enemy shields. Or for the Assault class, you can give it a perk so that when you are killed, you explode to damage others or outright kill who you couldn't. Though in order to customize anything, you have to be level 5, which is a weird stipulation. However, the online just has the standard game modes. Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and King of the Hill were the only game modes for the longest time. However, the final DLC was a game mode called Dreadnought Assault, which, finally being able to play it, yeah, this shit is unfair. The Dreadnought is too powerful, as it tears through players way too fast, and the fact that it has teammates defending it and drawing fire off of it leads to an extremely unbalanced game mode. But it's still fun. I got my community together to play for a night, and the online mode is just extremely fun nonsense. Having Assault Marines jump around the map, while Tactical and Devastator Marines hold choke points, sneak around, or just straight up meet the opposing team in the middle. It leads to a lot of fun chaos.
That is me. Why are you trying to shoot me?
I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't tell if you were a loyalist or Chaos.
You can tell my name.
Oh, you're Alpha Legion. Are you loyalist or Chaos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sacrifice,
Where'd it go?
not invade.
Okay, Raptors are cool.
Where'd he go? I'm actually scared. Where'd he go?
He went up, straight above us.
What do you mean he went up?
He had to jump.
What do you mean?
Jump back, still up.
Oh, come on.
Now that's
Dude, you
why
look like
I'm wondering what
Starscream.
you're
Holy
thinking.
shit.
Boss literally had a Melta.
Damn right, boss of the goddamn shotgun. You fuckers want to keep playing Assault Marines? Fuck you. Now the only one that can kill me now is Hunter.
Okay, Plan B.
Ah, fuck! Damn it!
There we go. Speaking of the devil.
Shit! I told you only Hunter could kill me, and he did. It's, This has been a very fun night. I thank all of you for joining me. You are all fantastic and beautiful individuals. Now, I know you all want to just tear into me. So 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I got the headshot. Now
He kind of gooberized.
we hung us. Now we.
But PvP isn't the only game mode. Space Marine also has a Horde mode, where you and 3 of your friends fight through 5 arenas on 3 different maps against hordes of orcs and Chaos Marines. But we also got one more map which flips the script, where we play as Chaos Marines fighting against Imperial Guard and Loyalist Marines. And I'm going to be perfectly honest again, this mode can be extremely hit or miss. The enemies feel extremely tough and are able to take an ungodly amount of punishment, while dishing out extreme amounts of damage, leading to an extremely frustrating mode where it feels unbalanced and unfair, especially when playing on the Chaos map. Though, I gotta say, if you wanted me to experience what it's like being on the receiving end of the Imperium, you fucking damn well succeeded!
Oh my god, big hammer swing! I'm almost dead! I died.
On God? For real? For
Oh
real?
god. I died.
Oh, I hope they bring in everything there. Like, I hope they even bring in like Primaris or something.
Where's the...
Well,
Why is it up here with me?
I'm on my way, buddy.
Why am I in the middle of this? Excuse me, Mr. Psyker. I'd like to introduce you to a mall.
You want me to get headshots, and I have shields staring me at the face.
Yeah, working on it. Nope. Fuck. Squigs. Squigs.
Oh, I tried.
No, it's fine. That's on me. I got pinned between 3 shields and a squig.
Oh no, swinging stuff, exploding and blowing up on me.
Yeah, why did you melt the guys and melt the guns?
Like, I didn't understand you gave them grenade launchers.
Why imagine it's already happened? We're going to pop next to that.
Jeez. I got him. No! I don't got him!
Dude, whenever I'm like swinging at the space marines, I'm able to heal off them, and it's like a lot too, but it just, the moment I heal, they start stunning me, and I'm like, I can't.
On the upside, I got all the
Can't
footage I
fight.
need.
That was rough.
That is very rough. And that's Space Marine, a game that clearly shows its age. It's very much a game from the 2011s, and yeah, it's fair to compare it to Gears of War. Does that mean Space Marine is bad? I wouldn't say so. Is it the bestest game of all time? God, no. It's a fun power fantasy game with a fun online mode. Sure, its story is bland and its game modes can feel unbalanced, but at the end of the day, it's a fun and stupid power fantasy game, and that's all it needed to be. I recommend getting the game when it's on sale and getting a group of friends together to play the online mode and enjoy it. As well, if you are a fan of modding, there are plenty of friendly mods that you can download to make Titus or your Marine truly your own. Before we go, I want to say thanks to my community for coming together to help me get footage for the online mode. Though some couldn't make it because it was Easter weekend, those that did show up gave me not only great footage, but a great night playing a game we all enjoyed. So thank you all for your support and love. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. And join the Patreon to view videos like this a week before they come out. I love you all, and hopefully Space Marine 2 is a game that improves on the original in every way. God damn it, I can't wait for it.